Good afternoon, Triathlon fans, specifically Ironman 70.3 Washington fans. We're getting closer to game day for 2021, and I'm doing a little quick video here. We're going to talk about the weather because I've done a little digging and it's looking a little interesting. So I think we need to kind of pay attention, especially when you're up north, Maple Valley, Washington. It can get kind of cool kind of quick. I mean, you're in the Northwest, and it is typically kind of cool. I mean, the beginning of this year was a little bit unseasonably warm, but it looks like we're kind of settling back into kind of the fall pattern. So we need to go over that and make sure you guys are ready for race day. So we're just going to dig right into it. So I like to look directly at the Ironman site because they've been putting up these little banners here at the bottom, kind of describing the course and the water and the air temperatures. So they're saying an average air temperature of 65 degrees Fahrenheit. That's like average air temperature. So that's getting kind of cool. And water temperature is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you're getting 65 degrees air temperature, I believe that the water temperature is going to be less than that for sure. So I'm saying bring your full wetsuit and just be ready for a wetsuit swim. Bring your speed suit just in case for whatever reason it pops up hot. But we're going to look at the weather forecast, and I don't think it's going to be real problems for this year. So I go to timeanddate.com to kind of look at the past information. I look at weather.com. I look at a few different sources just to make sure, because weather.com is kind of a national thing. But definitely check the local stations and stuff like that and just kind of see what they're kind of forecasting. They get kind of a little bit more in the macro of the environment over there, as opposed to like weather.com, just kind of looking at it as a whole. So what we're going to do is timeanddate.com. I like to look at, let's look first at kind of the typical weather around this time of year in September, just historical information. So I go to timeanddate.com. I check out the climate averages, and for September, average high is 71, average low is 54. So nothing crazy. You're not going to bake and boil out there necessarily if it's a standard month or a standard September, and you're not going to freeze to death necessarily. Average rain accumulation 0.34 inches, so it's not getting that wet yet. So rain shouldn't be as much of a problem, but a little foreshadowing, it might be a problem this year for race day. So like I said, average high is 71, average low is 54. The average mean temperature is 63 degrees. Let's see if that jives. So they say 65 on Ironman's website, so they're obviously not getting their information from timeanddate.com. Precipitation humidity about 69%. So it is a little, it's getting a little humid in the air, but when you're at that low temperature, it's really not going to affect you all that much. What I do like to do is you can go into the past weather for timeanddate.com. I select, you can go through and do the different years. I just look back at 2020 just to see what the weather is going to be like. And if you look, let's say, you're showing up to transition about 5 o'clock in the morning, 61 degrees Fahrenheit, no overcast, and no wind. Humidity 87%. So it's a little chilly, so you're probably going to have to bring some warm gear, sweatpants and a sweat jacket or something like that. Just make sure you're staying warm in transition so you don't freeze to death or something like that. You don't want to walk around in shorts and t-shirt and you have your teeth chattering and stuff. So definitely dress warm to get ready for the race. Looking about some race time, 61 degrees still. So if it's 61 degrees air temperature, and typically, like I said, it doesn't get above 71 degrees for an average for air temperature in September. That water is more than likely going to be below the wetsuit legal limit. So wetsuit legal and full sleeve all day long. And possibly even consider, I have a neoprene swim cap that I wear. Anything below 70 degrees, I throw that on. Just keeps it a little bit body heat kind of trapped inside. Doesn't let it go through your head. I like to throw that on there when the water's cold. I just don't like to swim in cold water personally, and I get cold in the water pretty easily. So that's just me. Take it for what it's worth. But looking at the rest of the weather for the day, 2 o'clock you get to 68 degrees, 71 degrees. It looks like 72 is the high at 4 p.m. So barely got out of the 70s for back in 2020 when September 19th time frame. So just like to have a little bit of historical information to kind of look at to say, was the Ironman site accurate? Is it full of crap? Kind of what the information is. So that's past history. What we can do is timeanddate.com, look at the 14-day forecast. And we want to look at September 19th. And a high of 70, a low of 56. And it's looking like the possibility of some weather. So isolated thunderstorms and overcast. Feels like 66. Doesn't look too windy, 4 miles per hour for the wind. But what I'm concerned with is, I'd say, thunderstorms and kind of the timing of that. Um, I also looked at weather.com, and they kind of show the same information. Cloudy with occasional rain showers, high 64, winds southwest 5 to 10 miles per hour, chance of rain 40%. So basically, all day, it looks like there's going to be a chance of rain for this race in 2021. So I think this is a key important factor. It's looking like it's going to be overcast. I always go with tinted swim goggles, but you may not need them. If you have clear goggles, you might throw them in your bag just to have. It's not going to be super bright out there or anything like that, so I don't think you're going to have to worry about that going on. But I think you're going to need to be ready. In transition, have stuff to cover either if your bikes are going to be sitting overnight. So if you got electronics on, you might consider something to throw over the electronics and shifting and stuff, just to make sure it doesn't get soaked. Supposedly they're built to be water resistant, so it shouldn't be a problem, but you never know. If you got any other sensitive things, you cannot put an entire bike cover on, but you can put like a baggie over your handlebars and stuff like that, or over your shifting, your cassette in the back and the shifter in the front. So just have that in your mind, the potential just to cover up your stuff, because it's going to be out overnight. It's probably going to get rained on during the race day. While you're getting ready in transition, your stuff's going to be out there in the open. So, I would bring something. I have my transition bag, but I put in like a decent sized trash bag inside, so I could put my clothes that I want to switch into after the race to keep them dry. Anything I want to keep dry, I put. Basically, it's kind of a liner. I put my bag and I just throw my stuff in there, or you can bring a bag on and put everything, your transition bag, everything in the bag in transition, and tie it up and just push it to the side to keep everything warm. So that's an option. Maybe write your name on the outside of the trash bag or something like that, just to keep everybody on the up and up. 7.3 Des Moines, it rained on us. I just had my transition bag, but anything I wanted to keep dry, I had put in a trash bag inside my bag and then tied it shut. Whatever you lay out in transition, it's got to be wet. So 7.3 Des Moines, pretty much everything was wet. I went sockless for the bike ride and left my shoes on the bike. And when I dismounted, so I was running through transition with no socks on, just bare feet, because I wanted to get back to transition and I could just wipe my feet off. I put on socks and shoes and did the run. But it was on pavement, and it was dry by then. It was hot, so it wasn't a problem. So consider, if you ride with or without socks, the kind of situation you want to be in. If it's going to be raining on you, it's going to be wet coming in transition. So do you want to run in your shoes? Do you want to take your shoes off and run in socks or run barefoot? When you get to transition, do you want to put on a fresh pair of socks? More than likely, they're going to be wet if it is raining. So I think wet socks in shoes is better than no socks in wet shoes. Personally, my feet would blister up pretty good if the shoes are wet. So just take that for what it's worth. When training with socks, make sure you've got the right socks and consider that they're going to be wet. I use Aquaphor in my socks just to reduce friction and that type of thing. I put it in my socks before the race and kind of squish it around and everything. So when I throw my socks on, I already have that lubrication in there, especially if it's raining, especially if it's all wet. You're going to end up with 13.1 miles. You're probably going to end up with a lot of blisters. If you don't have anything in there to take that up, because like I said, it's looking like a rain forecast, and it's looking a high of 64 degrees. I think timeanddate.com gave you 19th. It gave you a high of 70 degrees. I think you'd be lucky. So I would be ready. You do that swim, you're going to be hopefully in your full wetsuit, and I'd recommend a neoprene swim cap to keep as much warmth as possible. When you come in, peel all that off, you're going to be in whatever you're going to be in, and probably going to be wet, and you're going to be on the bike, and you're probably going to be a little bit cold at the beginning, especially, you look at timeanddate.com, you look at the weather throughout the day. Unfortunately, I lost that, but the weather throughout the day, you're probably going to be pretty chilly at the beginning. And then maybe it gets up to 64 or something like that. So take that in consideration. Are you going to use arm warmers? Are you going to wear a jacket on the bike just to keep warm? You want to keep that body heat in. Are you going to wear gloves and that type of thing? You're going to bring disposable stuff. So maybe just an old pair of gloves, and maybe take some tube socks and cut the end off. Use it for arm warmers. So if you warm up, you can chuck them in an aid station. You're not out, that kind of stuff. Personally, I would probably look at some sort of rain gear, like a rain bike jacket, that's made to fit on you, and it won't be like a sail when you're riding around. because rain and 64 degrees just looks kind of cold and kind of miserable. So bring rain gear for the bike. Just have it with you just in case you decide you want to use it. And on the run, it should be fairly comfortable on the run. Like I said, I think the main thing is going to be the socks to make sure those lubricated, and then make sure that any place else that is sensitive is lubricated as well, because you're going to be wet more than likely, and it's going to be chafing. So be ready for rain, be ready for cool temperatures, and just make sure that you're properly, like I said, Aquaphor, I use that a lot and put it where I have sensitive areas where I can get chafing and stuff. So just be ready for that. Um, it's looking overcast. Probably sunglasses aren't going to be a big issue. I know for Ironman Tulsa, I had my Wing 57, my Rudy Project Wing 57 helmet that had the visor, and I had the visor down the whole time, and it really wasn't that much of a problem, even getting rained on the entire time. So if you wear, I would go with sunglasses or something on the bike to just protect your eyes from stuff getting flung in there off the road, rather than go with nothing and just have breaks where you need to stop and wipe them off or something like that. But I would suggest having eye protection, especially if it's going to be raining and there's going to be throwing stuff up on the road. For the run, like I said, I think the main thing is just lubrication to make sure that if you are wet, you're running around, and you're kind of cold, that's when stuff really chafes. And at the end, you're really going to find it where after that post race, you take that shower, warm water hits it, you're going to find out where you chafe for sure. So that's going to be my big recommendation for this race. I think 70.3 Washington, you get up in Maple Valley, Washington, September 19th. I think you're starting to get in the fall, especially around there. The temperatures start going down. I think that 65 degrees air temperature that Ironman is recommending is pretty accurate. Just looking at the forecast, it looks like there's some rain. Now, timeanddate.com says possibly storms. Weather.com is just calling for occasional rain showers. So, like I said, we're a couple days out. The time of this recording, we're September 8th, so there's several days in between here, and things should shift. Weather patterns can change, so take it for what it's worth. But if you're packing, if you're flying, if you're flying out early like that, and you're shipping your bike or something like that, you may have to pack the stuff early. I would definitely bring rain gear, unless the forecast drastically changes. You just don't want to be there and then caught in the situation where you need rain gear and you don't have rain gear, and you're out trying to find a sporting goods store to get this stuff, because there's going to be umpteen thousand other athletes in the same boat looking for gear. So it's going to be in short supply unless there's plenty of athletic stores buy to get all this stuff. So that's my 2 cents on the weather. Hopefully this helped you out. If it did, give it a like. If you got any other recommendations, suggestions, or anything like that, put them in the comments. I always like to go back and I try to redo videos if I need to. If I find more information, more pertinent stuff, if you see this on YouTube, give it a thumbs up, give it a like, hit subscribe to get future information. If you want, maybe you're looking at 70.3 Washington, you're going to look at 2022. Consider I've got a virtual club, settobasetriathlon.com. You can sign up. I'm collecting all this information I've put together for this race and training plans and putting in there in an online course. For anybody that's registered on there, they can go and get this information all put together in a nice little source. You don't have to look on YouTube and Google it all and that kind of stuff. So hopefully you found this information helpful, and good luck out there. Happy training, and we'll see you on race day at the finish line.